Let's call to order the city council study session for May 20th and 2026. Everyone participating, those who may be viewing live or recording, have video issues, may not see the live video lesson. You will be able to see the PowerPoint presentations and data associated with the meeting. The audio is functioning correctly. Let's start off with our general business item 1, Chief Sasser and police budget presentation. Okay, so we were last year these very get right into this. First, I want to start out with this department statement. So the department is consistently contributing to our community through education, place to live, work, play, and I got to give a shout out to this awesome vendor that sat next to me. He's one of our detectives. He's about 50 pounds lighter. Got a lot of muscle now, so he's been doing a lot of sort of turns visitor and stuff. Really want to sum that out. But my real hero picture that kid right there. You remind me of a younger me. So we'll put this start out with the budget request summary. And on the front end of this, I can give it the color you want to talk. So if you want to stop and start to look for my time, so then discuss that. But I'll try to just give you 30,000 foot unless you have questions. So highlights on the side, total plant expense increase or change is 9.67% overall. Most of that's in wages instead of 10.2%. And then when the American community asked us to look at our entire budget to see where we need to increase the budget or decrease the where we can decrease the budget. And that's what we did. So on the administrative section, it went down to 13.26%. Operational expenses overall, 6%. So, questions on that first slide?
What were the changes?
I can get it.
Okay.
So this is the line item budget. So again, the wages, the big increase is the 400,000 is over. And you'll see that increase is 57, 150, not much there, 22, 136. I can get it those. This is the capital equipment summary, and one of we need to talk with the mayor, city council, well aware that I'm not a fan of our police program. Yeah, it's still we figure this out. We decided that it would be a better option to take advantage of some of our impact fees, loosen up some monies elsewhere in the budget, we those costs to start operations and move forward. That's why you see detective vehicle, patrol vehicles, but I don't have the gear on there. I'm kind of waiting for the council's decision on that before I feel that. Essentially, if we do pay off all of the cars, what we can do as a staff, I can keep my staff and sit down. We can discuss it make more sense to buy 2 patrol vehicles this year, which would max out our budget, which a lot of people take up. Or if we want to buy a patrol vehicle, 2 support vehicles, we can afford to do that, and 2 support vehicles at the same time, whatever makes sense given what's going on. So those are planned for now, but later on, I would next year you'll see that the back is fine.
The life of those things.
of those leases of the vehicles. Because we're getting purchase whatever it was. It's really different vehicles. We got vehicles that are fleeting. We got vehicles that are not making very behind and mechanical issues. And I was trying to keep them. Right. Just run, you know. You're gonna see next on there, FY 28, this is something for sure. We're developing a company this year. This is pertaining to our Axon storage body camera. So our body camera storage. Axon is the company that buy body cameras through, they can hopefully do some same company that kind of wrote that monopoly in the law enforcement. This year I sat down with my evidence and actually started with the storage, and he assured me that we can go every year. So I made this request this year, but I have this request. The other thing is, the whole AI movement just got me just as much opportunity and law enforcement as everywhere else. We have some agencies locally that are currently using AI report. So I didn't want to jump on that right away. I want to see how it sees. And I was also waiting for big dogs to come and Axon's definitely big dogs and law enforcement and they're in a dot here. We're very happy actually. So there might have been increase to the site HTV and full right to or should be called Axon. It makes sense to go with that because what it does is it takes your video and automatically transfer from that huge times never put that Easter eggs in there to make sure so we take it the day is something that doesn't make sense. You have to go in there and make sure it's movie, take that out. So for FY 28, you can expect the video version to reset storage. Any questions on that? Okay.
Chief, can I ask, I think I understand this, but the video storage is not, it's by statute, we have to retain all of that video for a certain period of time. Where our capacity, yes, I'm planning to see that the council, those amendments. Really optional.
Not sure. I know what we were referring to, that we were looking at video for our police department, and there's a statute on that. I've never really thought about body camera statute, and it's just kind of something the public expects them, or every agency is. So also that statute saying.
Well, it becomes a public record, and so it's got to be the record law. And part of that is then the function then of what this council adopts in terms of our retention beyond any time. So that's probably something. But you have cases like felony cases where your statute of limitations could be indefinite, could be 5 years, and that there's just and all of those videos, the more high definition they get, or storage they require, even on a garden variety interface. I mean, you got a lot of video, a lot of capacity just in those relatively benign spaces. You get 6 officers on a Sunday for 2 hours, 6 hours, or days, and the video, they have the body equipment, and it just takes a lot. But yeah, it is a public record.
Beyond that, I don't have anything on. I think it's important to keep in mind that it's a 5-year plan every year, and it's always not. Any other questions on this one? No. This is for capital projects. We got and this police department that ran down each other. I didn't come up with some things that. 'Cause, 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 Personnel request. Deputy chief position, we'll get into that a little bit. But I've been in the city council for 2 years for this year. I can't get that right later on in my presentation. The next one on there, the criminal investigator, this is an AG funded position, and that's why I have question marks there. Essentially, what this is a child protection detective. The AG's office will fund local housing in Southern Florida. Hotel and other agencies, they fund that position to the AG's office, which is huge benefit behind the officer benefits. But we'll get all benefits of having that child protective protection detective and all the resources on the AG's office. So I just want to put that on the record. It's something we're looking into, but there are some requirements that we have to be on. For example, we have to have a lockable office, we have the material that the detective looks at. Yeah, just have one. I have a plan for that. When I came in, got a safe, our agency that had all our records. We've been in going through this long transition, turning everything into digital records. That is now the probably needs to be updated. For this and this kind of process in there. Any questions on that position? The other requirement we have to provide. I think it's a good opportunity. That's one. Public information officer, huge fan of that. I believe that would be our portion of that. We share the public information officer citywide, and that would be a portion of it. And I don't care if it costs the city or the PD, my own person's house in the city. But internally, this, so the council knows, we start at the staff level, start from mock interviews, just from the PIO side of the house, in case we never have to address the media. So, for example, we'll come staff and say, scenario, and then one of us will take a turn being in the hospital because we're in front of the media, while the other one's playing at the media. When they told us to try to figure out where we can get better. I believe this public information officer, we invited back John one time to come to that scenario with us, which is beneficial. She regardless of what to do. And the scenario was probably essentially a cop and a firefighter disagreed with the field and got to the fight. We had to walk through that scenario. So it was funny the day he showed up. So there wasn't. So we had to take the hot seat well with him, and we had to navigate through that. And then back into the other. It was pretty interesting, but I felt like we could do that on PO on a more regular basis. The other benefit would be to be able to take over all our city, shelter, just have more time. I think I can still talk to the PIO and say, hey, this is our message across the situation, and let them take it with their training to tackle that. They probably do much better than me. And then outside of like stuff that I guess for lack of a better name stuff, we could also start on positive stuff. Just kind of support the city of Chapel Brain. Great idea. Soon better. Police officer. This I pushed it out at like 9 and got him patrol officer. I have 2 animal control officers right now, and we get the stats, and they're working hard. And I think by that, probably time that we get another animal control officer. The office administrator position on there, honestly, if you ask me today, would be this, I'd say no, I don't know. just want to keep it going, right, that's fabulous, and beautiful. But we got 2.5 patrol officers, and sometimes when they're out having calls, and sometimes they're having together, it's a different situation. If someone shows up at that shelter, you know, they're great. And then they're in the status position, they gotta identify the sign of the, or under the PD or whatever. They're out. So it would resolve that issue, maybe, the trigger spot, maybe a different title. And I help you with that, it's wow, it has to be. And then you can just pretty much asking for a proper year. That's just, I'm just trying to use the certain spot. Any questions on this one? So now we can get into the items at the top. You'll see our general fund allocation was that it's all change adjustments from these benefits from FY26 proposal. This is our administrative section. You'll see change section. You'll see some things going up. One thing I want to point out is office supplies. It looks like I'm asking for $7,205 more in office supplies, or not office supplies. So it was, yeah, office supplies. But if you go down the sheet more and you look at miscellaneous, talking with the mayor, he wasn't a big fan of that miscellaneous line item, and I appreciate that. So what we decided to do is take the money out of that miscellaneous line item and look at what we're purchasing out of that, and it made the most sense to stay in office supplies. So it's not a better explanation of these are. You also see the equal there. That's actually taking out salaries for money. That was what we put aside for our these purposes. And then the average shelter operations, you'll see it drop 5, and that's because over several years we were close to TV repair, so we dropped by 5. And then the clothing allowance was kind of the opposite scenario, where we were just continually over. Again, it's kind of more of a
So, just go back to the special response to number 3. You budgeted 10,000, you with that, and you swept to 2,300 approximately.
Yes, but the mayor has got this is when we were first getting this RT started out. We had another item, so that's not another direction. The rest of our team moved it. It was actually a lot to get started. So next year we go with this back and, you know.
So is that just mostly for equipment or man hours?
Well, no, it's not. It's for uniforming anybody we run our team, sending them out week and our annual fees. Here, this is our next is our communication section, our crime prevention section, equipment meeting section. So top communication section, you'll notice telephone repair. This is all stuff we deal with the communication center. We would continue to lower budget on telephone repair to increase the price setting, but we go down to teletype, which is also in dispatch. We would continue to hundreds of meters. the batteries they use that. But ultimately. Crime prevention, going to look at the canine dog instances. And the council will remember that I originally presented canine. 27,100 for actors from where it started by themselves. You know, all the equipment is some of the black collar in training. But it's better learn to train. Yeah, black collar and very much told things like that. And then all that we broke down. We had to cover that. But going forward, I think all of that and we still have a bunch of and that then building maintenance. These increases people find at one point in time carryovers. So all of the air services and all that cost is not Saturday. The first one, electrical maintenance, that's all idle power. So cost idle power. Really don't have to control over that. Increase. Same with the natural gas. That's all natural gas bills. Really not a lot of control over that. So we increased it. The next one, building maintenance one. This one's a little different. This is where we give on there. All of them, it's on the building. We got 8 issues. HVAC issues. I want to point this one out. The HVAC keeps going out. It's a second one. Right above my office. So it kind of comes through. You got to look at it. It says Chiefs HVAC. I promise you, I'm not trying to get. So I share that HVAC with one other office and one of my lieutenants. But with that, it's in function, step one, for some reason. And on a side note, all the stuff that we contracted through, I ran it from the city. It's terrible. He's recommended the cost of those things that we're learning now. Next one is our the big one, the $375,000. That was, from my understanding, American where we paid our police department every year. And I brought it up to the mayor, and I never actually seen it at the end of the year. So I figured it would be something that we could hear to see that's where. So let me go to the next slide. I was unaware that these next two, the bond person, I believe that's cap or something. Certificate of participation. So I was unaware of these. Now I know how to run, so show up on my report. So this is where it goes one fraction for the building and the whole office. It wasn't actually $375,000. This is this so that money is going away from the previous line item. I'll switch back to this one. Again, we talked about paying off all of our current leases and decided to do some impact fees to loosen up some bonds elsewhere so that we pay off those leases. And the leases of 177, that's how much it costs us to get out of black leases right now. Do that and then go up to the next couple of leases. Those leases you can see the $130,000. That's what we actually have every year. That's the money that we decide. Patrol guards, we quit. So keep in mind our patrol cars not system $1,000 to purchase slowly. There's about 25 to 30,000. But so for people who pay us, be a huge burden left to lift it up, the department, I think it did. Usually talk about it, and that just necessarily everything up. Before I move on. So it's very big like that. All right, I want to get this stats. I think they're here. This is our call for 2002. And like I explained to the council, my thought on this is that I was to increase this as nice things to next. So 22, we lost by our calls from the previous year, added 5, added 260, and down 225. This is calls for service that obviously charges are effective stats. That actually responding to people calling. This part of detail of us and my last year, and I'm not going to get into each one. They got about accidents, being very consistent. Contingency assist. I don't think if you have a question about what trains, agency assistance, basically, or assistant agency outside of our jurisdiction, or is it? I do want to circle that down. See, they're huge generator.
I'm just being amazed. That's for
they do a lot. It's a thankless job because our patrol guys haven't learned how much we do for us. You now patrol around all so similar to the year that I proposed getting another one, it's awesome. Kind of the same situation. So then our civil calls went down a little. We got started to jump up a little last year. Extra control request up a little. Ordinance violation went down a little, but part violation up exactly a lot of responding. So.
Or the other side,
Say again.
or the parking violations.
So a lot of our violations fall. So we can look at that. That's kind of not about this. That's what we have. Keep in mind, the stuff we're talking about earlier, the state is totally insurance. So I think this needs to be that we should this for a while. And lower, yes, instead of down, there could be a number that they just simply we're getting better at passive lane. Look all the stats I want to cover there. Now I just want to cover the stats in the department. This is a current snapshot of our opinion. So the America we had and my three. Minutes that currently out minutes that we but they could potentially, the way we got it set up now is that and for 3 years this is kind of carrot and stick. It's more of a raise change. That's how I said. I think the first one is that change and you get it. And after that, it's your control. They look small. And our sponsors. So we have 40 employees. We need question on that. This is just the national stats for law enforcement employees. I just want to remind the council, the first year I was in it, FBI kept these stats at the officer level. The next year it changed. I kind of like better every saying in all operating. It makes more sense to this look at it. So right now they're saying we need, for the average is 3.5 per 1,000 people for national. This is the same stat for Idaho, also taken from the FBI. They're saying that the average for Idaho is 3 people per 1,000 people. Per population. And this is, the actual study, our case is just over 2 per 1,000 people. And this looks, we don't want to talk about the cities, so but, yeah. So this is census estimate, that's how much our population is, so. For the national statistic, which got the 8 to 4 weeks, that's crazy. The Idaho's average is 51 based on population. I think that's a great number. And we really serve our citizens well. People are unfortunately there. Yeah. I think it's a good number.
So how is the stress with your current what is being, down from what they predicting out of it, how are they handling it?
This is all we know. So this is done. I think we're all kind of go right now. It's coming together and show. And today, it's a stressful time.
Yeah.
One of Bill's, when he went out, what was the I was telling you guys that I love is this is the most stressful job I ever wrote. And I can believe me through that. Well, I'm going to still it with the contribute. It's a great world. Keep in mind, historically we've been 36, but we're at 42, so we're heading in the right direction. And there's other things that like the aging opportunity and technology coming into play that drastically help us on the next one. So start taking advantage of some of these technologies that don't not or but help us do the job. I can tell you on an individual level, that's not for everybody. They run down. What they I can't tell you about your answer. The tax wasn't. I wasn't a little pretty active long term. I was said if I hadn't achieved, I would have put in paperwork without control. It just wasn't where I wanted to be. I was grateful for the opportunity and learning that all but people are going to the US is a job. Something now that's
Is it fair to say you consider yourself fully staffed?
yes,
Today, and the 5-year plan is identifying future needs that are gonna get us closer to that average. But not when you're fully staffed, you're at a higher rate than ever been.
Yeah.
And to those, yeah, so there.
if you help us out, that happen. I've had nothing but great experience over the years. So in those 5 years, 69 US average rent money, since it had our historic average moved. I think you'll see next year when it goes in. This is my first year, everybody like that, so I'm learning now. Never wants to go. It's I get my opinion, I got it one way, not a. So, it's just making. Any questions on stats for which part of it, you know? Okay. All right, chief, or deputy chief of police spot, I just want to touch on this, technically, this would be a major. Like I said, I've teed the council up for 2 years, and I'm fix this year, and go like it's, but I also understand when you're on tree. The council was looking at things from a different level, we have a lot of departments and so I'm going to know the tree. So I think that there's other priorities, and it's why we're where you guys have treated us well as far as I see. And I'm gonna get it down and but there. From here, I'm gonna get into my request for my other request for this year. We already talked about there's building cost adjustments and building this cost adjustments. Yeah, that was just one of those line items where I printed out a detail went through a bunch and system over on there. So we had another 11,500, but I want to point out that if we used our entire fleet, so that's when we addressed this, we paid over $500,000 a year. I didn't need to over 130. I got off those leases, so still I got a lot cheaper. Plus, we don't want our there's a lot of things there to do this. Decision we want.
Okay, well, here, I don't know if this is really appropriate, but what was the thought process of going to leases versus owning anyway? And it wasn't your process. I read it.
I can thankfully say that I was.
And since when this was happening, you were really a fan.
No, I kind of had to find it. This office a lot. So I love it.
It's supposed to keep the word able all the time there. I just don't know why we went that direction.
I think bigger parts, like your,
Yeah.
maybe it makes sense there. I don't know. Or see, I don't know, honestly, but I never done at least setups were just designed for a lot of significant sites. I don't know, it makes sense for us.
It's like we don't have to look at it, and when we have multiple that, we do what we call a post-mortem. And I think this is what I'm going to do, a post-mortem. It really worked out the way we expected. What are the reasons why? And are we fixed it? I believe we probably are.
Yeah, I'll say that, because we had a representative come to us, he was, trying to sell us, another company trying to sell us pieces. And they did illustrate that it makes a lot of sense at the city level, police, but at the community level, there's not a lot of money because of all the equipment for these cars and kind of offsets.
Yeah.
They right, not good, but for the city.
So.
I want
It's close to this more than council, and it was definitely pitched as a cost saving.
Yeah.
It was not pitched and I think the outfitting was supposed to be both in the price. And it was a lot less than what you're talking about, and the pitch was it would be less than buying new vehicles, and they would.
Yeah, I remember that was really selling these.
So I think there was maybe a teaser rate. Yeah, I think that happened, I think it'd be a teaser rate, so.
And if you guys remember when I covered this initially, when I showed you that first piece of paint, it was around $9,000. Next year, it was 10. So my just keeps going up. So, at least on buy people, we can negotiate at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, so I covered the building top, people in town and get into ongoing mine basement. That's our gospel, move track inside. And then I'll cover on the workout time compensation, and that, cover another side of the call. How yes, this is essentially software, software got better. So first off, mine base, what I'm asking for here is 5,400 ongoing funding for also wellness. For the also wellness software, why am I doing that? So in 2024, the city council, you guys want to move funding out of the program. And extra being proposed, you guys gave us an opportunity to present for additional funding for each department. Part of that funding was the mine base platform. I chose to ask for 3 years up front, just over training. The reason I'm asking you this year is that next year is our contract, March 2nd, 2007. So I would be presenting until about this time. So we would lapse that contract. So here is that coaching and track reading coaching.
So are you getting good use out of that program?
It's set up. As a matter of fact, this is a snapshot of how that software works. So this is, and this is way more. Show you.
Yeah.
So, during this time frame, whatever I read here, this is how we check in our. The way my base work, movements was still our system that dispatch all our calls. And it's where that previous program pulled out the stats that I should read. So this does something similar, pulls out still in that officer. So if we have an officer that goes to an unattended death or the death of a child or takes several child protection cases, that will flag that officer or something, probably inside about check. So during this example right here, 13 decades, don't let them fool you that 395, that's not how long the check is to, that's, well, there's an app that comes along this, and it shows us who, how long people are accessing. It doesn't show us who. It's kind of vague on that for obvious reasons, but it shows us who's accessing the app and how long tracks of that. So it's not listed, you know, they're looking at the app as well. And the average check-in time is just over 12 minutes. And it's usually some this, and the way I'm showing really actually $50. So our $50 period, I think it's time to look at our changes and show what we can do. We'll just check them no matter what, whether the system flags them or not. And that. So gives them a one thing I thought was interesting about this is the top identifying issues, career work issues, and then they're all attached to the family. Yeah. And well, again, it's a tough job, it takes no one. So, but that's kind of a screenshot of what the program would be, but that's just for a while. And then we have a peer support attached to this. And we have probably 4 or 6 people on that team. And they actually input a check. Question about that.
Checking in on the system, or checking in with it.
Checking the system, checking. What happens. Yeah. So that's what I'm asking on this run. Next, I'm going to talk about workout compensation. What I'm asking for here is $40,000. So I recently had a chance to write ProWeb, which is, I don't choose, it's essentially two comments. It's essentially how I do two comments, so I just say, dedicate that time to write over, or we have got. Every year, Robert, right, every 2 years, trying to 40-hour training, how I do. So that ProWeb is documented by Austin's that
We've done this, I've been trying to get all this guy for 2 days. Oh, wow. Okay.
So, part of the information came out, this is the, not 2030. So, your average age for basic hard back and enforcement career was 49 at that time, it's 46. And in comparison to civilian law enforcement, it's 65. After heart attacks under age of 45, and unfortunately, under 45%. Comparison to civilian, 7%. And this is the big one, life expectancy range. It's 57 for law enforcement officers, our civilian counterparts are 79. That's 22 years difference. This isn't debatable. This is well established. There's no argument, this is an actual. They write rules.
No, it's.
I got this, things like that, you know, like a video. If you hover over it, it's embedded in the PowerPoint. Oh, there you go. It wasn't on there in there, it's down. You want me to go back? There you go.
Well, it does present, I don't think you have.
Can I turn up TV or? If you just hover the video or something else, you usually like, it'll start. I wanted you to hear this from someone else other than me, maybe through the employee, some other, more on the background and. Over the actual video, there you go. And right in the corner. Oh, bottom right is next out, just click on that, the speaker down.
It would be beneficial here. I'll stop at that point for a moment. Gordon, also, anything you want to interject before, and as a doctor with a microphone, that's already happened. I'm interjecting like you two gentlemen about far more experience and graphics. Well, I did interject if you have something that you think would be beneficial here. Well, the distinguished here is like, it's not, it's like that way.
It's in,
Obituary.
everything, right, eating grants. So the full video on this territory is about an hour, it's probably worth watching. If you want to watch it, this is only a couple minutes. We'll basically explain the stats, but it's coming from that. The other thing here, which I'm not asking for, but I thought was interesting, is LVPLA2. Basically what this is they're finding that their regular underdogs that we do don't really have good representation of cops. So, believe it or not, a cop job is usually pretty boring. But the problem is, it goes from boring to super elevated real quick in the back, super elevated real quick in the back there. Night shifts, all that. With the man's uncertainty, see all of the way. What they're finding is if cops get this blood test, which you have to request, and the elevated and it's elevated at LVPLA2, it's elevated. They can pretty much predict within 4 or 5 years right now. And one of the stories the doctor told me was he really an example where it really had out of shape. All the other blood work looked pretty bad, but it's LV, it's, let's just call it A2 for now. His A2 levels were super low. They were not worried about things like that. And then they went to a cop that was literally running Ironman competitions. All his other blood work perfect. They ran these levels to Dr. Stone, super elevated. They started looking into the market like a calcium score and all that stuff. And they ended up doing some MRIs on them, found that huge block in an artery that had broke free with Jerry. So they're putting a lot of science into this blood test. This is something I'm gonna handle. I mean, I just thought it was interesting. I'm just gonna inform my people of it and I'll start asking people this test, but I just thought it was interesting. So, and honestly, for that out, this is what you're talking about. But that stat is not available as far as now time. So right there, you also see the peer review journal that came out in association with that A2 study. And this doctor here we're talking about according to so this is a rocket scientific science. That stat's not available. The other thing that's not available is if you conduct physical activity, that's in shape, you're less likely to have a heart attack. Happens leading me to requesting for this extra overtime hours. My thought is if I can motivate my people, stay in shape, it's good for us as a community, it's good for us as a department, and it's good for them. If I truly care about the people, I make sure they're happy. Don't be fooled, 40 grand for the government plan. Plan is to offer them the ability to work out with compensation at the PD. Don't get to do it at home. And if you're coming to the PD, you have to be there. They'll have the opportunity to work out 2 hours a week, 4 hours a week. $40,000. I did a little test run for 2 weeks where I essentially said, hey, we're gonna try to do this. Let's see what happens. 17 of them, for those needed and so close to half of them, they started taking advantage of it. I have a feeling that if we implemented it, it'll be like that first, but then it'll trickle out. Plan for 40 minutes, kind of just to dip our toe. And I'll have a sheet that has 800 and I think it's 30 hours. And they'll have to go in there and clock it, about from those hours, once it's tracking. Where it's done. It's not way they don't do it without spending about that's what it would cost. That's kind of my thought process there.
Do you feel like it motivates? I guess my question is, I don't necessarily want to take officers that are working out and being healthy on their own and then just incentivizing them with money to come do it at a different location.
And
Do you feel like it motivates officers that maybe aren't as into physical activity or into, okay,
this is a test.
okay,
That's why I didn't want to dive full in and ask the council.
okay. To see Cause that would be my question, is I don't wanna just throw money at it if it's just gonna be cops,
And
officers that are already super physically fit or
I can tell
active
you,
outside and then they just come to the PD to do it.
I can tell you that during that kind of 2 week run, I had people that were interested in it and it was a mix.
Okay,
There were some guys that were in shape and some. Yeah, if it's for our dispatchers as well.
okay,
And they're sitting for 10-hour shifts. My hope is that when they're done, 2 times a week, they'll roll.
they'll go get on the treadmill or something. Okay,
I'm just kind of putting the filter down, but it would be expensive if I had privilege to go out. Excluding myself, anybody that's exempt is not being. It's just kind of my hope that I'm going in the right direction. We have a super young department. Now. We have an opportunity to make sure that they're not, they're not, we're just gonna be shaving. I'm gonna retire. And any other questions?
So you do any cardiac screening on these guys, you guys at all?
No, but I'm gonna tackle that going up on during the department. I'm gonna actually get into this. Tell them what the stats are, we're gonna take a look at that. Just you have to look for that, take care of this, that's just.
Just from, I had one of my guys, 45. Right, they shape he's tall, skinny, good shape. He died of a massive heart attack on the treadmill.
That's why I said this.
And so, and he, I mean, I look more like a candidate for heart attack than he did by a long stretch of imagination. But inflammatory factors, from what I read on those things, doesn't mean it's almost like diet's not relevant,
Right.
so it depends on how you. It does and it doesn't. I'm not gonna go into details, but it's a little bit more in depth than just getting on a treadmill and running your butt off and to achieve some school.
One thing I didn't. Dr. Stone told this story about. There's a, was great, it was really. The thing he said was, so great, I can keep doing what I'm doing. Dr. Stone was like, please don't walk away from this conversation with bad brain, that's not what I'm saying, I'm not doing that, there's other. And the other thing I want to point out is this other under, Jonathan. Rob helped out that. Remember, I keep butchering it, but. What I think happened is Stone started this research, he started this company, he sold it, and Dr. Scheinberg stepped in, this is the exact same research, and Stone mentioned something about self. So that's why I was doing it. So that's the end of my pitch for trying to make sure we stay healthy. And I just want to explain that I'm still asking for $200,000 because the way I came to the math is that we have to sell the apartment. And it's an over from salary, so we gotta jump that at the time. And that's how we got was my new know was gonna buy. I would, but if we can get our own, maybe they're only spending 30 a year, we gotta get people taking advantage of it. We get rest of next year.
Because we used to, and I tend to agree with you on that. For example, if you got a couple of folks that have heart problems, but they say they're still, we say they're still with us, right? They still, they have heart attack on duty, whatever the case may be. This prevents that, a lot of that.
I'm gonna recommend they go with that.
I agree, we totally.
I was gonna say, I think the. I feel a lot more comfortable with it. And I think this is a great idea. And I like that we're starting small, and I would feel a lot more comfortable in the future. If that number's gonna go up, if we could tie those dollars to help improvements in officers. And so to do that, we would need to do there'd need to be some testing and some tracking.
I'll plug in my brain, inside out.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, last one. This will, there. Last thing, Power DMS. This is another software that you know, what it is it's tracking our use of force in the field. And there's two suits, Power DMS, actually, a bunch of suits, so you can get whatever you want. The two suits that work currently. The out action software, which is use of force that. Right now, they're pretty antiquated way. Pretty much an Excel sheet. So if you ask me how many use of force incidents did we have last year or the year before, so I can tell that. But then if you start asking me details about those incidents, I probably the rest of the life is specific. So it's kind of an antiquated way to track our use of force. The power rating is at the end, currently we're doing an important annual evaluation, 2 times a year. And there's still tracking software, which is for our NTOs. So we have all the way around things, all the times. And the way I'm gonna pitch this is technology versus staffing. So I've told the council in the past that I hate subscription-based services. I still do. On a personal level, I hate it. It's the way it'll. I mean, that's the reality of conducting business. Listening to others. You just can't come with it. Not that it's going to that's the argument. So instead of asking for additional staff, we should ask them to go to that makes our job, everybody's job, be easier. The software benefits the entire department from top to bottom, from top. First thing was Power DMS. This is just a guide for each of some examples. This is a use of force tracking. From my stats are more easily generated and streamlined. They look a lot like that base database. So like when they first pitched this to us, they pitched it to our entire staff and showing us pages. Turn an iPhone to an Android today or users. But it just makes sense. Another plus to that is you support problems more easily identified. So, for example, if it's not an officer is involved, frequent use of force incidents, supervisors can proactively investigate or why. There could be a number of cases. It could be the shades, just got that shit where use of force happens. But on the flip side of that, if we have an officer that's getting a little more aggressive, this is a better way to track those relations. So we can intervene early, figure out what's going on with that officer, or their tone, or whatever, before it becomes a clear situation. And we can just give a little rubber tap directly. Another example would be monitor type things, evaluate how effective they are, including the basic changes. So, the example I'm going to give you here is years ago we had an ASSA baton. It's a baton we used to strike individuals that were being resistant. We're trying to get compliance with it. The problem with batons is that it was about this big. And you hit it 9 times without effect. No use of force looks they look horrible, especially when you have 9 times. So this company called Peacemaker came out with a new baton. It was the big way. And we found that when we started using that, it one. It doesn't want to hurt and or we be all this is looking around and figure out so we can evaluate what types of use of force we're using. We want to say and it's way more capable than this. Power action, this is just kind of a screenshot from power action and I thought it was posted there. There's so when they fill out these forms, they're all drop down, super simple. They can, so for example, the officer had to take someone to the ground during an arrest and then they hit their face on the ground, they took it down, they can just push on that portion of the body and there's that. We also know where the injury occurred, not just the type of use of force without referencing. 6 paper bill. Looks like that, the officer was a interesting, that was in the nose, and also doing the officer. So, the tracking both sides. The other thing that stuck out to me was the Canon. Just got a Canon. Some other software, but this could be the answer to that as well. I'll be honest on that stuff, it's so super cheap. Very cheap, so. But we transition this now. That's our action, our ready is the evaluation, training on the side of the house. I just got 3 examples here to do. First off, FTOs can more accurately problems with trainings across multiple trainers. Typically, in the FTO process, we have at least 3 FTOs, and if there's continual problems, we've done a really good job of identifying problems with paper and basis. The system is user training, and which did also often use that the next FTO will follow up and see exactly where they're at on the FTO. The other thing is they can do things on mobile, so there was smartphone apps stuff there that we do on an MTV, so currently right now, sometimes we got to set aside a couple hours at the end of the shift to fill out a DOR, daily observation report, tell our trainers what they're doing good, bad, and then make any corrections. This way, once they get the car, they're back in the car, training, driving, control, and do all that on the phone. And night they set 15 minutes aside, rest there, they sign it down, move on to the next. It's just a low order functional. Getting off the training side of the house and not back on the evaluation side of the house. Kind of the thing we run into with our current evaluations is we change shifts through. So it's pretty common that we have a guy in an active with a supervisor. They do several months of work and then they change shifts. They get another supervisor that's unaware of everything that's happening during that change. Things so this way, the first supervisor, if something happens on the shift, it gets in the program, do that, that's how that happens. The system later on, the supervisor sits down and do now to pull all the notes. It's more fair to employees, which is important because these evals are getting heavily. We got a guy that sees another guy and he's still through the cracks that tires in the way together. Just a better way to do this. And this is just this is very tricky for you before, like just break your out like the system. So like Tom trying to do this guys took that. Acceptance of feedback, which is a category for anything under 3 requires correction, corrected. They could eventually be seen the door. So that's our EMS. You guys have any questions on that part? Yeah, this is my priority list. Obviously, we're already using my list, but I'd like to continue that. On the workout time, second, don't mind that. We'll look at our EMS is the last. I will say that I'm asking 1405. It's only 12,100, but that's out of our subscription line item. And I noticed that those subscriptions are pretty tough operating. So I'm just trying to account for that. The other subscriptions we're paying for. That makes sense. Just like these subscriptions, that's where our subscriptions come from. I'm asking for another 2, but it's them to offset some of the cost of those subscriptions. Any questions on that?
Building cost adjustments and the vehicle maintenance cost adjustments you're not asking for extra funding, those you can finagle in the budget as is, or?
I am, well, the building cost is coming down, because we identified that was coming down.
Okay,
But I am asking for increase for that. which is the 11.5. And the electric one is all out, I don't have, so the gas one is all, our gas bill. That just come up. And then the bill means ones, that's just from us buying now, rating 2 separate buildings. And all the maintenance costs that it requires to run that. So, aside from the city.
So those things are, some of those things are going up. But that. Capital. Facilities.
So this next line item, that's where it's at.
Okay,
It was budgeted for $375,000, it's only 307.
gotcha.
It may help. Whoever's on the revenue piece of that. They're identifying those 3 different categories, and there's $267,000 that's a one-time ask. To help. With
Okay.
vehicles and some of those costs that we recognize this year.
Okay, that's why I'm just wondering on this priority list, if it just did. What
I probably should have included those.
the cost is.
You think I would?
No, it's fine. No, that's okay. Yeah, I'll go back to there and tell you that.
Yeah. So yeah, just look at the changes. That's
Okay.
the changes I'm requesting throughout the line item. It's,
Okay,
you'll see them go up and down. There's something that are benefits.
okay. And these 3 things are not in the changes.
They are.
They are. They are.
First one,
Okay, okay, gotcha.
yeah, now, so, yeah.
Council, you're okay with you Sasser?
You're
Let's go to the.
Thank you.
Agenda item 2, highway, streets and roads. Here we go. Just remember, he provides the roads. Chief responsible.
We all buy
Yeah. Does everybody know Ryan? Council?
Or if not, right into our streets and sanitations from.
Right, which one?
So, oh, yeah.
Oh, very
Oh, you're right.
Ryan is easy to take jabs at, but he is one of those employees in our organization that's irreplaceable. Both ability and character. He is a tremendous individual.
That's what I'm saying, because I recognize that, so.
Now you gotta live up to that.
Oh, great. All right, so this is the highway, streets and roads budget discussion. It's included at this point because it is related to the general fund more so than our other groups. But that's the response to the enterprise funds. So we'll start with the overview. Their estimates are revenue. And keep in mind, so the revenue component does include the requests that we've made historically and this in this current request. Revenue that we've asked for from the general fund. So they differ between 26 and 27. It's primarily all it's funded. But also, I think we'll have more discussion on it when we get to the line item. But for the highlights, we do have debt in the street department, which goes back to funding the Parkland. It's debt with the sewer department. So we have that outstanding debt that we're paying. It does not show up in our budget because we are paying for it out of our fund balance. And we do that because we have a negative fund balance, which has age restrictions for the fund balance, and so we can't pay that out of that.
So it's treated a little bit, but I just want to make sure that that's the, everything that this doesn't show up there. For projects, we'll get into it, but we have included 285,000 for railroad crossing on the Jump Road. We've been getting the budget for the last several years. I'm feeling more confident that it likely will happen in the spring of 27. We have the agreements in place. We were hopeful it would happen this year. My meeting or call with ITD and the railroad consultant 2 weeks ago confirmed that their signal crews would not be able to do it this year, but they're trying to do this out, so we did it for April 27. So we've shifted that one forward. It's in the same way. Again, if you keep in mind, CDA did dedicate or grant $350,000 for local projects, so that's done. A change this year from previous years is we are not anticipating to purchase large equipment vehicles. This budget doesn't include a portion of the pickup truck that will be split cost-wise for departments. That truck, excuse me, will be used by our construction inspector. So there's a component that's a street. We talked about last time that we are still hoping to build a new office building for the public works yard. We'll talk about that one a little later in the presentation. This is there. We don't really know why, but we have a stormwater permit expense that goes toward our, started out as an EPA permit that we shared with both. There's a fee to that. It was separating the general fund. Like we moved that in, I was using, we'll show you that. It'll be a line. Our revenue, based on the estimations from the IC, is anticipating significant reduction from the state for streets. So we're showing that it's estimated that just under $280,000 reduction to fiscal 6. That leaves about $450,000 for pavement maintenance from the revenue that is earmarked at street fund through the state account. So as you know, we have a goal to go ahead to maintain our street service rating. But we acknowledge that the deficit that we're, or the reduction that we're seeing from the state likely aren't going to be able to meet that goal this year. And so we reduced our goal by that 270,000, which means my request will be from the general fund or yes, or request from the general fund for 60,000. Talk about that more. I can understand that it not be free or even feasible, but it is a need. I just want to keep our top for people. So that's a sum. Bottom line in red, so they identify additional needs. I just want to make that clear. We're requesting 469,000, but it does lead to us to 70,000 the second. Overview, you can see where things changed. For the most part, what we've done here is just dial our effectively as close as we can to actual expenses historically, and we project future reduced safety factors, if you want to call them that, over estimations. And so that's really what the changes are. And then in addition, equipment, we don't have the equipment purchases plan to show them as a pretty decent sales. All of that savings just goes towards paper needs. What's this time? summary, and then sort of there's that big program in there, you can see that in my future presentations for the other departments. We have for next year, we call it the jet truck, the vacuum truck, but it's our big truck that we use for many different things, for excavation, for sewer inspections and cleaning. So this is only a portion of that truck. We do use it in streets for storm drain, some excavation. We don't know if that's needed. I'm guessing we can push that longer, but it is something that we want to keep on the horizon.
So this is precisely,
Yes.
Thank you for getting this out.
Go ahead. These classes. Thank you. Capital project request. I debated if this is the right conditions. We've included pavement maintenance because it is a huge component of our street budget. It is something that changes year to year based on real funding. And so I am showing that includes our repaving, our micro servicing, seals, so those things. Projects we already mentioned that New Day and Chocolate Road Crossing. I do think that should come to fruition in 2027. The office building. So if you will recall last year, you guys did each of our public works budgets about around $100,000 in each for a total of $400,000 to go towards the hospital. We've done enough work on that, but it's clear that we can't make that happen for $400,000. And so our request would be if we can continue to fund that over the next 2 additional years and keep what we have this year earmarked for that. We would hope that in 28 we have enough funds to actually go to build, give us some time to design and costs. We still anticipate or intend to do as much work in-house as we can do, which are actually quite skilled and have that ability. But that would be their request is to continue that fund $100,000 in each of the funds for the next couple of years to get us towards that.
So we have a portion of that range.
Yes, which hasn't been spent. We haven't spent it for much easier. So it's in our current run and not to spend it and just hurry up forward. All of the work we've done so far is just that. And then we have identified facilities for some signal upgrades at our signals at Knudsen and Hawthorne, Knudsen and Joe Chevrolet and our lives use Joe Chevrolet. The signal protection equipment is just getting dated. It's becoming less reliable. There are much better technologies that we're hoping to just program that so that we can upgrade the signal, basically intersection earlier. Yeah, actually ahead of some of our peers. I think that's a great use of something that our residents will see and not appreciate. So then down there at the bottom, again, like needs, we've programmed that 469 and roughly 500,000 for the next few years. That's just showing that if we want to try and get to our goal of 1.2 that remains current funding levels, that's kind of again recognizing that it feasible or possible every year, but that fix this.
Okay, very good for council and maybe you're already tracking this. That's a request from unbalanced. Okay, it's not also limited that we have, so it's a competing request from our savings. We will work towards both of that and the current operations to fulfill its basic need is unbalanced.
it's probably obvious to state funding would increase, those would go down. Right, we're not, would be doing, just. Do it. Yeah. That's good, yeah, sure. So our personnel request, for this year, we think we have a need for some additional technical help in engineering. So that position would be split between all the public works budgets. We have a fair amount of development that we think we're ahead of us in the near future with rock property. Some of the other parts would be getting hurt or stay across some developments of those. If not at all, there's a need there that we likely can do with the current staffing goals. It doesn't happen. Just and yeah, they bottle that, but they are hard to make projects out as quickly as we come to your mission bid and accomplishment. So we believe that's a real need. That's a portion of that position. We mentioned that the chief had in his presentation to our PIO position will be shared. Don't actually know where the head of my home representative number to share.
It was playing for all general funds, so for fire between four.
So that's where that comes from. So you'll see some of the same things, or those on the budget presentations. And then in the future, maybe the next year's budget, we will technically be requesting to utility bill for a portion of how the also go to screens. Based on so if it's in, it won't be in red or highlighted on printout versions, but on the screen if it's red or yellow, those are those unique things that you've already talked about or that we've talked about. Getting revenue, we've shown the CPA contribution, general funded revenue, just to move the budget match, and in reality that comes how it functions. And then the general fund revenue allocation, so in 26, which we're currently in, we made the request to council to be on a $1.2 million goal, which you granted, and that was a $780,000 contribution from fund balance to the street. We haven't spent it all. I'm hopeful that we'll come in under budget with our finance bill. We're trying to do fair enough. So, well, significant amount of aid for something there to get towards our goals. And so that money will go to good use, but recognize that it is a little bit resource. And so in 27, similar request, although much less than 460. You can see where things go up or down, similar to the chief's discussion where we track things over time and see that we spend more in one place than others. And so we're trying to just continually adjust those to be as accurate as they can be. Really don't anticipate significant changes in any of these categories to just benefits for administration.
Primary government employee repentance is that there we've had quite the organization is streets that in December, right? The general operations and things would do about that.
You have to crack seal by themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't make all the words. Crack seal, jump in the truck, back forward, crack seal. It's a phenomenal job. Yeah.
Yeah, it will be okay.
I should have you counsel each of our departments do a tremendous job. Do their base services and serve our community with limited resources that they may have, and that's just a very different. Where Chief Delaney, his request in meter was a big piece, and drove by, I just great admiration for everybody involved. Doing their work.
That highlighted number there is the number we've already talked about based on the revenue we anticipate to receive through the state and county that will provide or allow that 451,000 to go towards service needs. Next page, it's one more page, but I will stay here for something. That one there is just that the line item values. Okay. Everything else should look similar. So the way we structured this is that line with red text, that is the request we're looking to go towards surface maintenance or asphalt maintenance. But it is being proposed downstairs. But from if that is approved, then the revenue and expenses match. I'll pretend there's a good question, but actually the line item is why things went over again, but. These are the same site we saw last time, just talks about that yard office. And the glider request has been made, if you have questions, we want to revisit it, we just. We don't have the best space out there, it's. Functions, but it's. Definitely for this kind, this kind of structure. It's also a mixed use, which does that how we can, yeah, be much and shop. I appreciate you guys do without, so. Yeah, and so the work that we've done so far, we laid out floor plans, try to anticipate and grow office space for many years into the future, but not do anything crazy. And so we're really excited that we're happy to wait until the that this project. I mean, are we increasing your footprint on that one? Yes.
I think it's a little smaller, but if you don't have the shop space, so it'll be all office space instead of shop space. So technically, we're building smaller, we're gaining a lunchroom, bathroom, office space, and everything.
So do we have it's on the sign, sorry, Dan, Chair. This would be a building that different location. We would keep the existing building, use it for some different use, more of the shop such construction, wall space.
Yes, that's my question.
But the lower it's in one of those.
I was under the assumption that we just would convert this way, so. But
No, we should have, that's what has happened over the years. We've gone from that to a break room. We have two of those now. One is the break room. It's just not where it's not doing that thing. It's not loving things. Scares of what that. My visuals is all this. It wasn't identified years ago, that all of our facilities, we started our facility. That's what those last slides were showing. So the question was.
Step some questions that we can this to 17, we're trying to bring back a summary of requests and what we have to have, as maybe a suggestion. And that's going to be where the challenge to set those priorities. So we'll have June 17th, July 1st, we're on the new budget.
Eric, let's have the blink. Let's have the blink.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest impacts is when we saw Cyrus Street roads are at $300,000 to protect. So it's probably. And our advice for the county on copy that so far is leaving budgets in the one last year.
Are there, I know it's on our next agenda. Are we expecting funds from that settlement that can help with things in the police department?
They're not big.
Okay.
We don't plan on that. Okay. We're small. There. Yeah, and that has to be dedicated in regard to that is there.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That's the agreement. Remember the line?
Yeah, because it has to go to
The health department
yeah,
and, yeah.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah. We'll adjourn study session, see everybody back at 6 o'clock, regular council. Keep that on us. Hold up. You're doing a nice job.